Good evening and welcome to the Catawba College Center for the Environment National Environmental Summit for High School Students. Amory, welcome to Salisbury, North Carolina.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
We are RMI and the Center for Environment are tonight starting the week-long summit with students from all over the country. And we're excited to have you because the theme for this year and every year has been redesigning our future being the students' future. Of course, it's all of our future. And I know, Amory, that you've been instrumental in helping think about a different future, particularly for energy, but really all resources, for many years. And I'm hoping that you will have some thoughts that will inspire and motivate the students this week as they learn more about the environment, what they might think about for their own careers, their college career. So I have some ideas about some questions for you.
Okay.
So we're sitting in actually the Stand Back study in the RMI Innovation Center in Colorado. And we named it Innovation Center for a reason, because at RMI we do a lot of innovation. And I think students and others sometimes think about innovation as being a new idea, an invention, and I bet that's maybe not what you think of innovation.
You can innovate in a lot of ways, and many of them are not technical. Actually, in energy, the innovation in new business models, new finance, new ways to market things are just as important as the ones in technology and in design, which is how we put technology together. And all of these kinds of innovation play together. They're much more than the sum of the parts. So it's not just about public policy, for example, new rules, new laws, but also new business strategies, or not just about technology, but also about design. How do we choose and combine technologies to make, say, big energy savings cheaper than small ones? That's something we do at RMI, and that has a huge effect. I'll just give you a practical example. If you use fat, short, straight pipes instead of skinny, long, crooked pipes, the friction is so much less that you save pump energy, and the same for fan energy, enough to save about 1/5 of the world's electricity, or half the coal-fired electricity in the world. It's the biggest thing changing the climate. And you get your money back in less than a year if you're fixing up an old building or factory, and immediately if you're building a new one. This isn't, however, in any official or industry study or forecast, because it's not a new technology. It's a design method. It's rearranging our metal furniture as designers. And very few people understand that design is that important. They don't think about it much. It's just something the architect and engineer do.
I'm glad you said rearranging our metal furniture, because that vision always sticks with me when we're trying to think about a new way of solving an old problem. And the other word that I think you use a lot, particularly about our own organization, is entrepreneurial, being entrepreneurial. Tell the students here tonight, what does that mean to you?
Well, we're an independent nonprofit, we're a public charity, but we realize that business really has the ability to make things big, to get them all over the place so they have a big effect in the world. And therefore, we really like the ability to start up new businesses. We've actually spun off a half dozen of them already from our nonprofit. Whenever something looks like it'll work better as a for-profit business than as a nonprofit, we nudge it gently out of the nest and tell it to flap away. Maybe give it a little money to start with in return for some share of its ownership, and we hope that'll make some money to support our programs. Some people are just born with this entrepreneurial instinct of figuring out where there's an unmet need, an unfilled market, and we actually are lucky to be partnered with one of the greatest entrepreneurs, Richard Branson, with all of his Virgin businesses, because he started an outfit called Carbon War Room, which is now part of Rocky Mountain Institute. So we get to hang out with him occasionally, and boy, it's a real to all the coffee.
Indeed, indeed. So I've just finished reading a book that I would love to just ask you a few questions or tips about. So this book is called Getting Beyond Better, How Social Entrepreneurship Works by Sally Osberg at Skoll Foundation and her co-author Roger Martin. So in that book they talk about what does it take for people to really create change, and not just incremental or small step change, but transformational change. And you've talked about transformation versus incremental change for decades. So there are 4 steps that they have listed that I think are pretty good, so I'd love to run them by you. The first is just a small one, understanding the world. So as you think about that, if you could, in just a couple of phrases, what comes to mind about how you think and how you might encourage these students to think about the world?
Well, it's only a little planet, but you sure wouldn't have to, you want to have to paint it. There's a whole lot of the world, and it's very diverse, and people in each place have their own way of doing things. So there's no one size fits all. If you want to get people to think and act differently, as the community organizer said, Saul Alinsky, first you talk to one person, then you talk to 2 people, and you talk to their concerns in their language. You don't try to sort of inflict your truth on them, but you listen a lot and find out what they're interested in. That's a very good way to make social change, value change, aspiration change. Those are some of the biggest drivers of what happens in the world. Also, the world's very interconnected. You can never do just one thing. Do I have time to talk about parachuting cats, do you think?
Very briefly.
Okay. In Borneo in the 50s, the Dayak people had malaria. The World Health Organization had a solution. They'd sprayed DDT all over. This killed the mosquitoes. The malaria declined. So far, so good. But then there were side effects, like the roofs of the houses started to fall down on people's heads because the DDT had also killed teensy little parasitic wasps that had previously controlled the thatch-eating caterpillars, which then multiplied and munched up the roof thatching. So the government gave people sheet metal roofs, and then people were driven nuts by lack of sleep because of the noise of the tropical rain on the tin roofs at night. And meanwhile, the DDT poison bugs were eaten by little lizardy critters called geckos, which were eaten by cats. The DDT built up in the food chain and killed the cats. Without the cats, the rats flourished and multiplied, and soon the World Health Organization was threatened with potential outbreaks of typhus and plague, which it would itself have created. And they had to call in the Royal Air Force from Singapore to conduct Operation Cat Drop, parachuting, by some accounts, 14,000 live cats into Borneo. You can't make this stuff up. And what that tells you is if you don't understand how things are connected in this complex, interconnected world, quite often the cause of problems is solutions. So what we try to do at Rocky Mountain Institute is make the cause of solutions be solutions by understanding those hidden connections and harnessing them so that we solve, or better still avoid, a problem in a way that solves or avoids a lot of other problems too, without making new ones, before somebody has to go parachuting more cats.
So that's great, and you're talking about understanding the world in a whole system, which we think about a lot. So the second step is envisioning a new future. So when you started, you were very young when you began this work. What did you envision?
Well,
what made you think there could be change?
Well, I had the sort of temperament where I'd ask why not. And one of my early mentors was a great inventor, Edwin Land, who invented instant photography. He said people who have a new idea, seem to have a new idea, have often just stopped having an old idea. That's the hard part. So whenever somebody thinks things are a particular way, I like to kind of turn it around and look at it inside out and upside down to see what that would look like. Because it comes from my physics background. And that seems to work really well. In ancient times when I was in college, it was clear the world was headed for some really serious messes around population, resources, environment, economy, development, and security, especially how they're all connected. And you get rapidly into what are called wicked problems. It's kind of like a Rubik's Cube. You move one thing and something else screws up, and you have to try to move everything at once to get the change you want that will really work. So I realized early that energy was kind of a master key for unlocking many of those problems and suggesting solutions to other parts. So I decided to work on energy and just went for it. And in those days, people had a certain idea of what the energy problem was, that you would just supply more and more energy, more of any kind from any source at any price. And that doesn't work for a lot of reasons. It costs too much, it has too many bad side effects, too many risks. So I started at the other end of the problem and asked, so how much energy would we need, of what kind, from what source, at what scale to do each job in the cheapest way? Because we don't actually want the energy, we want the hot showers and cold beer and mobility and comfort that energy gives us. So turning that problem around to get back to what are we really trying to do, what's the cheapest way to do it, opened up a whole new insight into how to solve our energy problems in the cheapest way, and by the way, while you're at it, solving many of the other problems in the world, things like climate and national security, having prosperity for all, and it's worked out really well, and we've applied the same thinking to a lot of other problems.
Great. So so we've covered understanding the world, thinking about it in the future. So the other two, which I'm going to put together because I think you can't do one without the other, and that is, how do you come up with, create a model for change, and then, more importantly, I think, how do you scale that?
Well, first of all, I don't think you can depress people into action, and therefore I don't spend much time, if any, talking about problems. I like to talk about solutions, what people are hungry for, how they can live better, make things work better, pay less, have more fun, have better lives, be better people. And that usually will become clearer if you follow the money. You figure out, why are people behaving the way they are, what incentives do they see. Money isn't the only way to influence people, and not the most important way. There are many aspects of personal values and faith that are much more important than that, and we mustn't get caught up in vanity. Nonetheless, we live in a market economy where the ability to make money off something that's better is a very good way to scale it. And therefore, we've come up with ways to design buildings and vehicles and transport systems and factories and all sorts of things that use energy in a way that is enormously more efficient. So if you do this for the whole United States, you can triple the efficiency of using energy, quintuple renewable supply, because that's now generally cheaper than the old fossil fuels. They're really old. 4 cubic miles a year, the rotted remains of primeval swamp goo that we dig up and burn to run 4/5 of our economy. We can do better than that. And if you actually put all these parts together, you can run a 2.5-fold bigger economy in 2050 using no oil, no coal, no nuclear energy, a third less natural gas, $5 trillion cheaper than business as usual. And it doesn't need new inventions, it doesn't need acts of Congress, it can be led by business for profit, which is how a lot of stuff happens in our country. And that is illustrated by the fact that already 5 years into this 40-year transition we mapped, the U.S. is essentially on this track, not because we have a coherent national policy that tells people to do it, but because the business community smells the $5 trillion on the table. That's exactly the way things should work.
Great. Amory, thank you so much. And I guess the last thing we need to do is just say to the students, have a great time, particularly on the Fred Standback Preserve behind us. this beautiful campus. What else, Amory?
You can do anything you want to do. Just go for it. Don't take no for an answer. And when you're studying, if you are studying learning so many different things that your advisor raises eyebrows and said, I don't understand how this part connects to that part, you're probably on the right track. We already have plenty of narrow specialists. What we need is a lot more people with a vision across boundaries. Be one of those. Thanks.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, Amory.